Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in another of our APPI Learn by Doing with the focus on ARV. Today, we're going to talk about ethics and how it relates to the capabilities of consciousness and indeed the consciousness paradigm shift that many of us foresee. Now, here is the outline for us. We'll start doing our discussion on what ARV is all about. And this is both for newbies and oldies. Um, and then we'll get into the ethics um, discussion. And I hope that one will involve you, just because it's something which is just so open, and everybody's perspective on this is so important. And then we'll do a feedback session for uh, example, which was a bit unusual. I was on Coast to Coast, and George Norrie talked about us doing a prediction about the stock market, so that's what we did. And I did that differently, where I opened it up to everybody, not just the people here. And so it was done in a different way. Anyway, we'll talk about that, and then we'll do another ARV prediction. And then we'll add the analysis judging. So we'll make the full up prediction, and then the feedback for that will actually be a few months in advance. So let's talk about ARV. In our normal physical world and thinking about time in the normal way, we begin associative remote viewing with a remote viewing session. And remote viewing sessions always have a tasking. We like them to be as blind as with minimum front loading as possible. And the tasking is really quite simple. Describe and sketch your feedback target. That's a feedback target that you're going to see in the future. And that's it. So this is when you do your remote viewing. Most of you know about remote viewing. We're not going to teach it here. We have plenty of stuff on the web and our website. There are many different approaches, but basically you open yourself up to get information from your subconscious about your feedback target. Now, what's so amazing is that consciousness has access to this from distant places, and what we're most interested in is distant times. So, hold on here. I need to. Okay, so here we are. You do your remote viewing session for what you're going to see in the future, which is when you're going to do a feedback session. And it's during this feedback session when you see, you work with, you experience the feedback target that, in fact, your task was to describe earlier. These are the key remote viewing related sessions. What's nice about ARV is you always get feedback. So this gives you an opportunity to truly learn. And Joe McMoneagle Monday was very clear that while when you get really good at this, you get to become a professional after you've practiced a lot. You don't need the feedback. You just can do something blind. And for example, in the military, often they would never get feedback. But to do that, you really need to get to the point where you practice. And that never stops. He still does virtually a session a day. In an interview, he said he actually does 6 a week. So, and he says and he said this Monday. It's so important to really get this, that just like any other sport, any of the athletes, anybody who's at the top of their game, and this is like a mental martial arts, if you will. A number of people have called it that. Um, they practice every day. You don't stop practicing. You practice in the sense that you do it so that it becomes literally almost automatic. You don't think about it. It's not a mental thing to do any of these skills. It sort of just comes naturally. And that's true for remote viewing. And so practice, practice, practice with ARV. People often say, can you do it too much? And apparently the answer is no. Doing one session a day would be actually a good thing, according to Joe McMoneagle, and I frankly agree with that. You want to get so it just becomes very natural with you. So that's the connection between the remote viewing and the feedback session. Now, in between is when the key associations, remember this is called associative remote viewing. If all you did was the remote viewing and got your feedback, that's fine, that's remote viewing. But associative remote viewing has this additional step where you actually now get to take an action, you get to do a judgment. And the approach that we're taking is called binary ARV because we're focusing on two possibilities. We're basically always asking a question, which can come down to a yes or a no question. For sports, we might do over or under, or team A versus team B, but that's equivalent is, will team A win, yes or no? So it's always binary. So what we're going to do here is put this always in the context now of yes or no. So how does that work? Well, since we're binary, what we're doing is having two possible targets. Remember, there's only one target here, but we have two possible targets, and guess what? One is associated with yes. Guess what the other one is associated with? No. So we work to make these targets as different as possible. Because during this stage, you want the judge to be able to take your transcript and make a judgment about it. Now, the actual targets shown during the feedback session here will always, loudly in capitals, will always be associated with what actually happens. Okay, so you will see that target that's associated with the correct answer, whichever one that is. And so that is what you're remote viewing. The photo, it's really a photo site, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, which is the truth point, if you will, and that's your target. And the fact that the judge earlier in time, before the outcome actually happens, gets to know which picture you were describing allows him to take the action. That's ARV. Now, this is using precognition. Pre-knowledge. Cognition is knowing in our normal sense of real-time experiencing something in the now. You're knowing it in advance. And I want to give you what's my definition of precognition. It's knowledge of something in advance of its occurrence through means not accepted by society's paradigm of time. Somehow society, in spite of all the scientific evidence, as a whole, refuses to acknowledge this. And in fact, the consciousness paradigm shift involves precognition, lots of other psi phenomenon, where society will just sort of take it for granted and integrate it within itself, but we're certainly not there yet. And of course, what about our example? And we're part of this because the ARV work that we do is really demonstrating, and more people are being exposed to both remote viewing, RV, and other sci phenomenon. And that's part of how we're going to get through this paradigm shift. Another perspective now, which I think is important. We went through how this is to be understood in linear time, but once you get the precognition is real, it's important to take the point of view that, first of all, it begins with the feedback session. This is the truth point. Yeah, you did this earlier, but where did the information come from? It came from the feedback session. And it came from that in a purposeful way. We're doing ARV on purpose. It's not like deja vus that come out of nowhere, or you get these feelings of something which come out of nowhere, and you certainly can act on that. But this is done on purpose. You're sitting down and you do this on purpose, and you do your feedback session on purpose, and these are all purposeful sessions, part of increasing your skill level. So the tasking cue is as I described, except doing this over and over again, practice until you're practicing like a shaman. We give a coordinate to it. So we use 6-digit coordinates. Some other people use letters. It just doesn't matter. But it is a connector between the remote viewing session and the feedback session. And I always encourage people to say it out loud. And then say it out loud here, again, just as a kind of an anchor. Now let's talk a little bit about the targets. The feedback target, okay, here you are. What you're trying to describe is a photo site. Now, the photo site refers to the particular physical location at the particular time the photo was taken. So you're going to see on your computer screen or your mobile a photo that was taken sometime in the future of some location, some physical location. Now, your consciousness kind of automatically, but here you're doing it on purpose again, is expected to move to that site at the time the photo was taken and to describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. And that's so during the judging phase, which we talked about, the judge can decide which one of the two possible targets is the exact one, is the correct one. The one indeed that you are going to see and the one that in fact you describe. So using your consciousness, what do you get? Well, you will get first impression gestalts. The big things tend to come in first, and Joe emphasized that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first impression gestalts come in, you know, if there's a lot of water around, mountains, dominant colors, whatever the big things that come in first. But it's important to know your entire nervous system, everything that you have that is part of how your conscious moment in the now reports to you, is able to report to you. That's how your subconscious gives you the information. So that includes not only the normal visuals, the shapes, big, small, dimensionals, but sounds, smells, tastes, tactile sensations. You know, if there's something going on there which might be physical, you might feel something physical. Also emotions. So not only be open to, but train yourself to get more and more of these. And indeed, you can do that. So that's what a photo site is. It's much more than just a two-dimensional photo itself. Now let's talk a little bit more about analysis judging. mostly we talk about it as judging. Occasionally we'll say AJing, but obviously that's this step here. The target is indeed the feedback photo site, but when you judge, you are judging against the two possible ones. Now, one is the actual, the other is a possible only. In fact, some people call it a decoy, and it's not meant to be that at all. It's just one of the two possible ones. And while you're judging, you do it intellectually with some um, intuition involved, but you don't try to get too many emotions involved. You don't try to play it up in any super big way. You save that for the feedback time. Here you want to light it up to make it clear to the remote viewing. Here you want to make it really quiet. But to get the association so we can take action, you do the comparisons against two. That's it. ARV, the idea, once you're willing to accept, and this is what most people won't do, but the fact that you're here, you will do this. You accept that precognition is real. Therefore, the idea is easy. You just describe and sketch what you're going to see in the future, and you light that up. And we do some judging in between so we can take action. Joe, and I don't know who the first one to bring this into consciousness, and it goes way, way back, is practice, practice, practice. And I just want to emphasize that. Again, Joe did it Monday. I've heard Lynn Buchanan say it. I'm sure Paul Smith, I'm sure all the trainers indicate it's practice, practice, practice. But to hear it, and I'm emphasizing this on virtually something like a daily level, is something to take in. And if you want to get really, really good at this and become shaman-like in your ARVing and your remote viewing, practice, practice, practice. Find reasons, bring it into your daily life, make it a part of your life. If that's what you want to do, if you want to get really good at this, bring it in your daily life and practice, practice, practice. Okay, questions on that? Any brand new people here that, also new people come in and get the watch the video. Okay, so we are all okay. Let's go on to the ethics. Now, this is in the context of what, for those of us here, kind of accept as a given. And this is why the ethics will and are so important, both now and in our transition to the new paradigm. I'm just calling it the consciousness paradigm shift. And that's because things like remote viewing, precognition, psychokinesis, telepathy, other psi phenomenon, they have different names, but they all really come down to the fact that consciousness is fundamental, that the conscious moment that we experience now seems to be stored someplace, past, present, and future. Ingo called it something like the matrix. I call it the universe of collective consciousness. Once you get that all that information is down there, then all the psi phenomenon come from that. But that's a whole different world view. That's a different paradigm. Most people right now, certainly scientists, but even most people don't believe that you can do these things on purpose. Yeah, they happen maybe from time to time, but not in a way on purpose, and not in a way that you can use and integrate into a society in a very open way. Now, here's something I'm going to put out there. Um, and I would like to know, when I'm done with this presentation, if you actually agree or not. Um, but I happen to think this issue of ethics is indeed extremely important and intimately entangled with the consciousness paradigm shift. Um, the whole ethical foundation of our society will, in fact, I believe, be different on the other side of this paradigm shift. In, well, in many ways, the effects of the ethics and how it's integrated into our society, the whole issue of ethics is entangled with this consciousness paradigm shift. And that's what I want to talk about now. So first, let's get a sense of what I mean, what the word ethics means, and it's related to morals. It seems like some people distinguish the two, and there are, but ethics is like this, and I get this from dictionaries essentially. The discipline dealing with what is good and bad, and with moral duty and obligation. So they brought in the word moral here. A set of moral principles, a theory or system of moral values. For example, the present day materialistic ethic, okay, that the world is basically materialistic. That's a kind of ethic. Or an old-fashioned work ethic, or the Christian ethic, okay, Christian ethics, right? These are kind of different, Is there a heaven out there? Is there a God with specific characteristics? Or are we just materialistic? That's a kind of ethic that you then make many decisions in your life about. The principles of conduct governing an individual or a group. For example, professional ethics. Okay, IRVA, the International Remote Viewing Association, has ethics for remote viewers. So it could be for narrow groups, it could be for a society, but there's sort of a ethical underpinning, a guiding philosophy, a consciousness of moral importance. Okay, now morals usually connotes an element of subjective preference, while ethics tend to suggest aspect of universal fairness and the question of whether or not an action is responsible. Okay, so you can see ethics is really kind of the big picture. And it's really, you can see from professional groups to countries, which we know have very different kind of ethics, and yet the ethics of different religious groups um, um, are a big part of how the group in general acts, okay, based on the ethics within that group. So I think, and a lot of people would say that bottom line, um, in many ways, it's hard to know what words to use here, but a fundamental ethic that seems to be common um, is the golden rule. Uh, Within any specific group, one of the foundations for that group will be something like the golden rule. I'll read some of them here because they have slightly different flavors, but they're basically the same. In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you. For this is the law and the prophets. Okay, so that's sort of the Christian ethic. I thought this one might have been unusual. Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. So that puts a different angle on it. And all of these are um, very, very similar in the sense of what I think all of us understand as the golden rule. Treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Um, okay, so uh, that is maybe an underpinning, but given that that seems to be common to most groups, uh, and I really believe virtually every society, every group has its underpinning in the ethics, which gets related to law in one form or another. And those are always not the same. And understanding that is part of the major issue of why ethics are not in fact carried out. But clearly the law, which is carried out by sort of the big picture of the society, there's always someone in charge of maintaining law. Um, so the law definitely comes into this. Now, the question, which is in the background of all of this, is can we minimize the chaos that's usually associated with major paradigm shifts? People have studied this for a very long time, and most of the big paradigm shifts, the scientific paradigm shift with Copernicus, those sort of things, are really quite chaotic and very ugly sometimes. I'm hoping this time we can somehow, I use the word manage it, by just educating people to it, alerting them to it. I don't know what else to do, but hopefully others and all of us together, especially now with the internet, being able to talk to each other, can somehow manage this shift because it's inevitable. We know the universe, the world of consciousness is not flat. There was a time when the earth seemingly being flat made sense. Okay, but then we went through a lot of paradigm shifts, understanding that better. Now we're at the point where it's clear that psi phenomenon, the ones that we know are real, are real. And so we need to educate society about that and integrate it. So I ask this question: can we get a glimpse of what the new consciousness paradigm and associated ethics will be like after we are in it, past the chaos and transition? Well, yeah, the golden rule. Yeah, the golden rule. I don't think that, frankly, is going to change. So then the question comes up, we're talking about the same basic ethics. So what's going on here? So let's see if I can get you to at least understand my viewpoint on this. The problem is that we do not live by our own ethical standards. Within every group, we do have kind of that ethical background, the golden rule. But, and I say here, oh boy, we have lots of good reasons to make exceptions. Slaves was just the first one that came to mind, or property. And this goes back as far as we have any historical records. There have always been slaves around, and they're usually just considered as property. It's okay to torture and kill non-believers in the true religion. Okay? There are still groups that do that, right? It's okay to kill infidels. But that's not new. It's okay to kill the enemy who wants to kill me. Wars, right? We have all these wars that go on. Right? Right. It's okay to hurt back someone who hurts me. It's okay to steal food if my family is starving. And I put these here and others that I would say even in our society, you'll have different people that will take different perspectives on what's ethical. So, you know, it is confusing. What's right? What's wrong? Uh, you can, your mind can get mixed up with this. And I happened to find this cartoon. I read this ethics book you got me. What did you think of it? Well, it really made me see things differently. It's given me a lot to think about. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's complicating my life. Don't get me any more. I kind of like that. Um, and yet, ignoring it is one approach, ignoring the issues of ethics. However, I just think it's really too important to do that. So again, now, I want to ask, can we get a glimpse of what the new consciousness paradigm and associated ethics will be like after we are in it, past the chaos and transition? And I think we do have the ability to get a glimpse of that, because I want you to note that in those examples, fear dominated the ethics. Fear of being killed, fear of being hurt, fear of having something horrible happen to your family might motivate you to do things that you might not do otherwise. Fear, and there are a lot of different, aspects of fear. You might be afraid of being hurt. But I think fear, if you had to come up with one word that encompasses a lot of things that would make you do things that you would even know would be against the golden rule within your own small society, nevertheless, it's okay to do. But there's one other one which at least I want you to think a little bit about, and that is, it's okay to ignore ethics for some unimportant things. If all you do is consider a slave to be just a material object that you own, just like you own your home or something like that. You treat that person very differently because you don't consider that to be a person. This particular thing is just unimportant, and so you might very well do unethical things with it that you wouldn't do with other things. So at least for me, those two I've identified, and I'm sure you can identify others, and I, in fact, would like you to do that in a moment. So here is the glimpse as I see it. We're talking maybe a world with minimal fear, and everything in it would have value. We wouldn't make, I'm sure there'll still be distinctions made with some things being more important than others, but everything would have value and considerations associated with it. And so, of course, if we're going to get through this paradigm shift, somehow we have to get beyond fear, minimize it. I don't know exactly what that means, but I certainly know, and I think all of us know, when we're in a state with minimal fear, we certainly feel much, much better. And that would extend to society as well. Can we get people to be afraid of being able to read their minds? That is, at least from my experience when I've talked about remote viewing and the implications with a lot of people, when they begin to experience the fear of it, it often comes down to, well, what if somebody would be able to read my mind? What if they were to know my deepest thoughts? What if they were able to know that I didn't like them? Um, that's a kind of fear. Well, can you imagine a world where you didn't care? It may be that you still might not like people, but those people might not care. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if we need to like everybody in this new world. I don't know how that's going to develop, but I do believe that to get to this new world, we need for it to not have fear involved, except at a minimal level. You know, fear in some ways is okay. You know, um, it does help guide us away from things that we don't want, but certainly it shouldn't be fear at the level of being killed. That's a tough one to not react to. And so this world has to have reasons to have less fear, to have less fear about psychokinesis. Gee, if a person can manipulate matter, could he suddenly, if he gets angry at me, now I'm worried about having someone get angry at me, throw that desk at me and kill me? What's he going to do with this awesome power? You know, consciousness being so powerful, um, what if it gets used against me? I mean, I think that's the ultimate fear of the power which most of us sense that we do deep down have, that human beings are in fact have phenomenal capabilities. The capabilities of consciousness is just so much grander than we're generally manifesting. But there's an underlying fear that, hey, others have it also, and what does that really mean? So I think that is what, in terms of getting through this paradigm shift, we need to get through the fear of being as powerful as indeed we are. But not only on the individual level, I think we need to do that to manifest these psi phenomenon, but on a societal level. And the societal level, since everything is all connected, is probably doing in some way limiting our abilities. Now, you see, I've just put out a fear about our abilities being limited, and I don't really want to do that. I want each of us to maximize the psi capabilities that are there. So the ones that you're moved to do, practice, practice, practice. And then, can we value everything? I thought that was, I don't know why, that came in actually pretty strongly on me. And you know, Tibetan monks, they were going to build a new, I don't know what they call their, they don't call them churches, but religious structure of some sort. And as they started digging, they found that there were a bunch of worms in the location they chose. They stopped everything and actually removed by hand every worm, and relocated it so they would not harm it. I thought that was a very interesting kind of story. But that's the kind of value, at least considering it as having value enough to try to balance in your life. So there you kind of have my perspective. And I guess I would just say this new world would indeed be a much more spiritually oriented world for sure in the physical world that we would be living in. So we still have the physical world. We still have to, carry water and chop wood, and we're living in the physical world, but minimize fear and everything has value.
Marty?
Yep, I am done. Perfect. Let's talk about this.
I just have a really simple comment, and it just came to me because we say it all the time now. I have a girlfriend who's a kindergarten teacher up by Pacifica in California, and we were having a discussion on, children, the increase in children that have autism and Asperger's and the different emotional outbreaks and things that go on. So we were asking her what she does, how she handles that. And, she's such a nice and sweet lady anyway. And so such a quiet and beautiful energy about her. But she just looked at us really simply and she says, I sit them down and I make eye contact and I ask them, is this a big thing or a little thing? And she goes, and you know what? 80% of the time after they pause for a minute, they tell me it's a little thing. And then what I ask them is, so it's not really worth the outburst, that's going on. So to add it back to what you're saying, I think all of us sometimes, because we do it too now, my husband and I will go, is this a big thing or a little thing? And I think sometimes you'll find out it's probably not as big a thing as we've made it out to be, which in our paradigm shift, I'm hoping that will be our simple question to ourselves. When we start to be fearful, because I think that's where it comes from, is a fearful place. So
okay,
that was my comment.
Okay.
But I thought what you said was beautiful. So
good. Well, thank you, Donna, and thank you for adding that thing, because we do too often make big things out of little things. But that's in some ways the whole issue is the fact that other people don't believe the way we do, and if we're fearful of that, then we make it a big thing. Anyway, thank you for that comment. And
well,
please,
I think even more importantly is asking the question and then giving the person the time to actually think it through for a few moments. I think that's where it really comes into play, because all of a sudden you feel a little bit silly for having made it a bigger thing than it was. And doing it in a loving way, not a judgmental way, just saying,
right.
Hey, is this as big as we're really making it out to be?
Well, no, and I agree, and I think that'll often work. But if you go to the radical Islamists,
oh no,
now and you ask them, is it a big thing for an infidel to,
yeah,
he's going, yeah, that's the biggest thing possible because
yeah.
Allah told me. So
yeah.
It's not like it always works.
You're right.
And what we need to come to is a place where the big things are really totally aligned. In fact, this is beautiful because I never quite put it this way. The big things need to be totally aligned with these golden rule ethics.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's the way we will be at the other end of this paradigm shift, where psi phenomenon will be totally aligned and understood within the ethical basis. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, please, others, give comments, other angles on this. Do you think this is important or not?
I think it's everything, Marty. So I think you're.
I know you you got it, Donna. But I'd love to see if I can get somebody else to participate. You guys are always so quiet.
Marty?
Good, Lila's.
Yeah. Well, it all comes down to consciousness. I have a friend who posted something on Facebook today about psychics thinking that they can find people and they really can't, and he was very skeptical. And I wrote back to him and I said, you have to really understand what consciousness is, what it does, how you use it, before you can say that psychism is not real. And unless people really fully comprehend what consciousness is, they will never believe anything outside of the materialistic worldview that they have been conditioned to believe.
Right on. And
So consciousness is fundamental.
it is. And you want to know, and let me add one other thing to this, because most of you have probably experienced this, and I've experienced it so many times. When you put people in a situation where you're asking them to do psychic things, and even people who know they can do psychic things, let me give you an example. My sister-in-law is quite psychic, and forever she's always been able to take a deck of cards, mix it, and she says the next one will be red, and oh, it's going to be a diamond. Turn it over, it'll be a diamond. The next one is going to be Jack, Queen, or King. Turn it over, it'll be a Jack, Queen, or King. Next one is going to be black. You know, she won't call a card exactly, but you'll get something. After she does it 5 or 6 times, you can see her physically have fear. She's doing this, and yet she will bolt backwards and be afraid. What is it that I'm touching here? Because we don't want to accept that consciousness is that fundamental and we have it. So there is this deep fear, even in people who know this. You know, Joe may be over it, Joe McMoneagle, but most of us, I think, still have a level of fear associated with this capability. And I think in many ways, people who don't even want to talk about it, who are fearful of it, they know it, and that's why they don't want to talk about it. Okay, thank you, Lila.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Okay.
Can I add just one more thing?
Please.
Okay. I believe our fear comes from not knowing that we are all connected. It comes from the mistaken belief that we are separate. And that's just where it comes from. If we all knew that we were connected, we would not have this fear.
That's right. And how do we get to that point? You know, there's a movement among many to have us feel that way, you know, one world. In fact, the ultimate spirituality is we are one. We hear that a lot in different spiritual contexts. But how do you feel that when you get into an individual group and you think that the people in that group are your brothers and sisters or your family? Gosh, the way you treat your family is so different. Imagine if we can treat every human being as part of your family. So you'd want to do everything to nurture them.
So I'll tell you how I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
By reading accounts of near-death experiences and reading books about spirits who have come back and talked to their loved ones, by reading books about people being regressed in hypnosis, regressed back to their spirits, to their spirit self when they didn't have a body. There's a Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls. Books like that explain consciousness.
Yes, and this non-physical, so now we're talking the pure spiritual type world. That type of pure spiritual type world, in fact, I think we are one is the reality there. In fact, that's sort of the model. I wish we knew more about how the individual souls, you're talking about the fact that there's like, it makes sense to talk about individual souls that remembered their physical life or lives, you might want to say. And yet you have the sense that in that world, that heaven-like world, which is not restricted to in any way. So this is all souls are in this heaven-like world. They're cooperating wonderfully. They're probably sharing experiences. Now, how do we get that to be the reality in the physical world
Okay,
worldwide?
I can answer that. I can
Okay.
answer that.
Oh, wonderful.
But well, it's simple. It's
Yeah.
simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. And it's simply parking your cherished beliefs at the door and going into other beliefs and looking at them without your biases getting in the way. It's all about opening your mind to something new and saying, okay, let me see this for myself. Let me take this in. Let me look at this my own way and experience it. And if I can experience it, well, then yes, it's true. And if I don't experience it, then it's not true. But that also has to do with the will. You have to be willing to want to experience something.
You see, you're thinking on the individual level, and I would totally agree. But I'm now thinking on the societal level. How do you get societies to not have fear of each other? Now, if you could do it one person at a time, if you could get each person to look at that and come to the golden rule conclusion that they don't have to fear somebody in this other society, that's fine. But I'm thinking big picture now. To get through the paradigm shift, we have to get, a majority of 7 billion people to feel that they have very little to fear, or nothing to fear ultimately. And so when I ask that question, that's what I'm asking. Okay, I looks like we lost Lila, but that's on the tape. Okay, anybody else have anything they'd like to add to this?
Marty, this is Arthur.
Good. Hi, Arthur.
Are you going to be getting into later on, maybe, or is it now the time to talk about the thing about ethics in our remote viewing? Whether some people, I've talked to people, and they say, well, it's not right that you should be able to fork it. It holds them back to be able to say cheat on a let's call it an investment because it's unfair, that sort of thing. Are you going to get into that later, or is this?
No. In many ways, I think, this big picture idea is so big that it included all of that. Because why do they think it's unfair? Because it's putting them at a disadvantage. They fear being taken advantage of somehow. That don't you think there's fear behind that comment?
Of course, there's all kinds of fear every which way. And I explain that, hey, it's perfectly ethical to do that because it's investing, sort of like that. It's kind of like a gamble. They're willing to take your money as well as that also. So if you have a gift, then use it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and on a one-to-one basis, again, we'll use all those kind of arguments. But I see Lila is back. The real issue is a much bigger one. How do you get societies to accept this? How do you get 7 billion people to accept this? And your example of financial, I think a lot about that, because the financial markets and people who, different people trade in different ways. And there's some normal traders who are better than others. This person would be willing to accept that, but wouldn't be willing to accept remote viewing. Well, what's going to happen when we have a psychic remote viewing fund that is making more money than any of the other funds? You know what? We're going to get resistance, and we're going to have to deal with that. That's part of the chaotic transition that we're going to go through. And you should know we're in the process of starting a hedge fund. And I'm hoping that we can handle that chaos where some people will go through exactly the experience you had. That one person, they're going to say, maybe that's not fair. Who knows? They may even try to pass laws against precognition. I don't know what's going to happen, right? But if we can get on the map in a bigger way than has been done in the financial markets, then we're going to be educating people in larger numbers to this reality. So I think that's one example of how this education, see, it's all about education. But ultimately the education has to be that this is the reality. The world of consciousness is not flat. These psi phenomena are real. So now we have to adjust. And then, often these adjustments take many, many decades. I'm hoping this one won't, but it probably.
Marty, here's an excellent example.
Mm-hmm.
You know that I'm a retired firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my career was cut short because I have a back injury. But I have friends who have got 30-year on-the-job retirement pensions coming to them. They were on the job for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yet still, some people don't believe women can be firefighters.
You're right.
Right. So you don't educate them. They have to educate themselves. They have to come to that realization for themselves. Some may, some never may not. Some may never get there. But the simple fact is that we have women doing incredible feats, not just in firefighting, but everywhere. And I don't know how you just don't. People have to come to that realization for themselves. That's just
right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And you can show them information, you can give them the arguments, but they have to take it into their own conscious being. And some people never will,
Right.
but some will. And these paradigm shifts, supposedly they're people who think the earth, they're still flat world societies. I think those are fun, but
Well, look,
really,
Marty, look how long it took to make a movie, Hidden Figures, about some gals that just happened to be a different color that were really good mathematicians.
Right.
I mean, crazy.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
And yet this is the world we live in. And there does seem to always be, and consciousness does this, and I think can understand that, a movement towards expanding awareness to the way the universe really works. And the fact that we're talking about consciousness being fundamental, that's pretty big. I mean, this is a major paradigm shift. And it isn't that other small groups haven't already had this. Most of the ideas that we talk about and the phenomena we talk about go back forever. What's different now is with things like the internet, we can literally educate a whole world and have an opportunity of turning the whole world into this new paradigm mindset. And when I talk about consciousness paradigm shift, that's what I mean. And let me just add, since it just popped into my head, the UFO ET disclosures that we're upon now, it certainly appears that some other civilizations, perhaps in development 1,000,000 years ahead of us, 1,000 years ahead of us, are there. They haven't destroyed us. They clearly have capabilities which could, and yet they're actually treating us in what may be an educational way. Hey guys, there's more out there than you can imagine. We can build and maybe they're not even physical crafts, but we can do things which show up on your radar screen, which you can see with your eyes, that are nothing like is in what you consider to be your world. There are other realities out there. And I do make that connection. And so in some ways, we're doing a side disclosure. We're part of a side disclosure, which may very well be connected, right? Everything's connected, may be connected to the ET disclosure. Okay, hey, you know, what you get from me and what you always get from me are my thoughts, and they evolve, and I'm just so happy that I'm in a position where I get to do that in a way where I get to share it with others and get feedback. But what we're on talking about now is big, basic paradigm shifts. This is as big as any previous paradigm shifts, in my opinion. Imagine a world where you had both the scientific world, and that was a major paradigm shift, with a world where consciousness is fundamental, and those two are blended together on a physical plane. Whoa, you know? Okay, other comments?
I have one other comment. Oh, am I still on?
Mm-hmm, please.
Oh, let's see, what was it? Oh, so one of the things that I've learned from reading these books about soul lives is that Earth is one of the most intense learning grounds for humans to go to. And that we do have the option, when we are not in a human body, we can go to other planets, but that Earth is a place to speed up the growth of our soul. We come here to have all kinds of experiences, to learn and to have fun while we're learning.
And let me just add to that, that also increases in some way, which we can't possibly understand, the universe of collective consciousness, because it adds new and creative conscious moments.
Yes.
And so we are part of the creativity.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Of the UCC itself. Patricia, I'd like to comment. You know, you agreed with Lila. I'm reading the comment box, which I don't always do, but I read this one. That Lila said, but you say if you tell 7 million people they can be psychic, they would rather look the other way. And that's absolutely true of most people, even in our country. How to get over that is the issue. In the short term, that's exactly what they would like to do. But if you look over a bit of a longer term period, and let's use the financial markets again as an example, if people who know about financial markets and are connected to it begin to see them, say, become smoother, begin to see them becoming more realistic, and it's connected to psi, where remote viewers are picking up, you know, not only price changes, you know, which a hedge fund kind of thing would do, but also picking up what the next big thing is using psychic phenomenon, using psi. More and more people are doing that. Well, then you're going to actually get a lot of people interested. Scientists will become interested. There'll be funding that'll be going to that. And this then is going to eventually have a societal impact, which may get 1 billion of those people. You know, and you get 1 billion people, well, now the world is different. You get 3 billion people, you get 5 billion people. It's going to be a different world, which is going to be a lot closer, and maybe that'll be enough to say, you know what, we're through the paradigm shift. Anyway, that's my response to what you said, Patricia.
Well, and you know, Marty, one more thing I just thought about too when you were talking about all this. One of the things that's happening. We have lots and lots of children that when they're young are experiencing all kinds of what we would call paranormal gifts or things that go on with them, and they're pretty much told to ignore it, or it's an imagination, or a whole gamut of things, or just made to feel bad or weird about it. I think that's kind of changed too, or we're not going to be able to develop some pretty unique gifts,
Absolutely.
going down the road.
Absolutely. This practice thing is just simply because as children, we weren't raised to do this. All this stuff is going to be taught in school. Reading,
yeah,
writing.
But we'll stick them in soccer school when they're 3 and keep them going through. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what we do now.
Yeah.
And I agree with you totally. Part of the paradigm shift will be to get past that.
Yeah.
And so you're right. And Anita, I see your comment. All of you can have your chat box open, but I agree totally with that. That's why education is so important. It's all as you get more and more aware of this stuff, I think you do become more responsible as you begin to feel more and more connected to everything, and remote viewing certainly does that. How can you not feel more connected when you're connected, first of all, to your own future, but then that there are other people who can read minds, you can do telepathy with other people. That has to make you feel more connected. So the people who do this automatically feel more connected. And that's why I'm so moved to get more and more people to do remote viewing in ARV, because it helps them on a small scale, but that's smaller scale than going after society. Yeah, you can do it one person at a time, but I just think we need to come up with more innovative ways.
Marty, one other thing to consider, of course, is religious beliefs and how stifling religious beliefs can be.
Yeah, when we talk about the chaos, and you brought up the word, and I occasionally bring it up, but it still hits so many nerves. Religions are the ones who are going to have, in many ways, the hardest time with this, because and not all people in all religions. It's the orthodoxy.
Yes.
People that believe they've got the word from God already. How do you question that? I've actually know some people like that, and I've tried the logic on them. There are hundreds of people who have their own views that are very different than yours. They all believe they know the truth. From your perspective, won't you agree that only one of them can be right?
No.
And they'll still say, no, I'm the one who's right.
Well, the truth is individual, though.
Well, but you see, if you get, no, we're not going to try to explain this away. The thing is, how do we get over those people? And maybe you don't. And maybe that's why this is going to take generations.
Yeah.
And a lot of things.
You just have to show them. We just have to show them. Just like my being a firefighter, I would tell people it took me 3 years to get hired. In that 3 years, I had a boyfriend ask me, "What are you going to do if you don't get hired?"
Well,
and I was shocked. And I said to him, "Well, that has never crossed my mind." And I needed to get rid of him with that kind of a thought. And I just said, "Well, watch me." And eventually I got hired, and I got the job that I wanted. I didn't work for just anybody. I got the job that I wanted.
Yep. And
I created that.
And yes, it all comes down to the individual working with their consciousness based on what they get with the connectivity of their society.
And what they believe in.
And
I believed in myself.
But you said something that's so important. And that is show me. Like you show them, you can have. We need to show more and more people in bigger and bigger ways that psi is both real and there's nothing to fear. That over the long term, the world is going to be better off, just like the scientific revolution. I'd say we are better off now than we were before medicine got into play. We're better off. And we will be better off with the accepting reality of psi. Okay, very good. Thank you for that discussion. So I think now maybe it is time to move on. Okay, let's do feedback. Now, the feedback that I want to do now is the one, oh, it doesn't have the date, but it was done about a month ago. It was done, I guess, actually it started, the tasking was done April 13th or so. I put out the tasking, the meeting was on April 21st, so it was like a month in the future. And we asked, will the Dow Jones Industrial Average close under 21,293? And that was a 20% drop from the peak. George Norrie was asking the question, will we be in a bear market? And that's measured by a 20% drop. And at the time, the market was dropping really, really, really fast. And so we asked, would we be in a bear market basically in a month? We passed.
Marty, was that 221 or 321?
Say that again? No, it was 321 was the date we asked it about.
Okay.
And we asked it on February 21st.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, we asked it on February 21st, about a month in the future. But I alerted everybody to use we in a normal fashion. So we each got their own pictures a week before that. So this one is different than like the one we're going to be doing shortly. So the question is, what do you do with feedback? So this is an example. In fact, Anita may be here. Yeah, you are. Good. Of one transcript. And so when you get ready to do your feedback, you get your transcript. And we'll talk more about this one. But you get your transcript and then you go get your feedback. Now, how do you get your feedback? Well, everything with the We online protocol is, I believe, user-friendly, and enough people are using it now that it's at least reasonably user-friendly. And it's all done online with a server that saves as much as we can save, which is pretty much everything that you put in, and we communicate via email. So for the feedback, this was the specific email that went out. I sent this out just a few days ago. And so it went out to the whole group because all the group members or were potential users. I think we had about 10, 15 people who participated, something like that. I think it was like 15. And then there's a link. So all you do is click on the link. And when you click on the link, you would then get your feedback. I went in and used Anita's name. Hope you don't mind, Anita. And her coordinate happened to be 314614. And this was a typical kind of page that comes up. So you can see here, up comes the feedback target, which is what you're supposed to describe at your remote viewing time for your particular coordinate. And here it is. And then what you do with your feedback, you do your feedback session, and we're going to do 2 of them now. And I just, the words I put here are right. You do your and the coordinate number transcript feedback session for this photo site target. So it's the target and it's a photo site type target. And always remember that it's you who are creating the transcript target entanglements. What got on that transcript was what you did at remote viewing time. So you were, and this is so cool, because this turns around cause and effect. And that's why there's a lot of work now going on in what's called retrocausality, which is just another perspective of precognition. because retrocausality takes the point of view that the fact that Anita was looking at this picture during her feedback session caused her to put things on her transcript. So that's retrocausal. And that's kind of cool. And then what you would do is add comments here. As you leave your feedback session, which all you have to do is submit it here, you describe your feelings, ideas, anything else you think that's important for this feedback session. And that goes into a file that you will have access to quite easily. So it is designed to help you learn. So here's that transcript. Here is the feedback target. Anita, why don't you, if you don't mind, and there's your coordinate. If you could put your mic, I don't know if, yeah, I can unmute you. Oop. We did it at the same time. Okay, let me just do it. Okay, you're now unmuted. If you can, and of course you don't have pencil and paper, but maybe you could describe, and everybody does feedback a little different, but I think everybody pays a lot of attention to it. I presume you do, Anita, isn't that right?
Not always. Mostly when I've got things wrong, I check out why did my subconscious give me that specific information instead of the right stuff, or rather, why did I judge the stuff like I did?
Okay, that's
usually I get the information right every time, but it's usually my judgment that is off in some way. So it's like, I think more about getting to know yourself and your habits you create in looking at things.
Wow, that is very significant, because I think that's true of so many people, that the judging is often wrong, more wrong than the remote viewing session, but that's after you get up to a certain level. I've seen enough of your work, and I know that you're good enough that that's true. So when you get a hit, and this indeed was a hit for you, you basically do what? You just give a big smile and you get happy and you look at a few things and then you go on with your life?
No, so I give a quick glance back and see what I did right. Make a mental note. See if I can repeat it in the future.
Okay, so what would you do with this one? What do you see that you did right?
Well, basically, often when I do transcripts and things, I also am a bit shy, and it's usually sometimes like I integrate with things. I get a feel of things, a feel of atmospheres, rather than colors and textures and smells and tastes. More a feel of what a thing does, the motion, the
right.
Atmosphere, where it is, its environment around it. So,
and that's what then I will say for others what it was. I look at this, and this was fantastic. You look at the motion here associated with what clearly, you can see where your subconscious mind would talk about this going around and around and around. A snapshot can only show it stationary. It may or may not have been moving slowly, but clearly that's intimately connected with this. The geometry that you got here is wonderful.
Yes.
So, and I think there probably are other words about movement and things like that. So you really captured this one. I think you gave yourself a 6 on this. So you really felt you nailed it, and I think you did. Later I'm going to show, I can't see your A's and B's here, but that's nevertheless very good. This was really a good session, and in terms of feedback, and it's interesting though, and again, the viewer is in charge. I may not have said that for a while. I used to say it over and over and over again, but that's a very important principle for all of us to really take in. This is a personal venture. The viewer is in charge. Even though all things I said about lighting up the target and all that, I believe is true, whether you get a hit or a miss. But what that means for someone like Anita, she wouldn't light it up in exactly the same way for a hit as she does for a miss. You clearly spend more time on your misses so you can learn.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the viewer is in charge and it's working for you. And that's terrific. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, Anita doesn't spend much time with the negative at all when she gets a hit, but when she gets a miss, the parts of her transcript that are negative, I recommend going through those to learn, but each one relatively quickly. You don't want to focus too much on the bad picture because that may be why you gave it so much credit, why you during your remote viewing session lit it up. So I recommend, but the viewer is in charge, that you don't spend during your feedback session. I actually recommend you have a separate session when you go in, and you can even look at both pictures, but not during what I call the feedback session, where you're really paying attention, even if it was a miss, to the correct target. And while you're doing that, the other target may come into your consciousness. Fine. You're going to feel terrible part of the time. Fine. Get over it. And when life gives you lemons, make lemonade and get back to learning something using the new picture. So I had one other example here, and that's Patricia. So is this you, Patricia, or the other Patricia? Is this your session, Patricia? I unmuted you. Okay, good. So here's another example. I think, what would you do with this one? Again, I just like people, just like we did, to get personal. How do you go about doing your feedback sessions? Do you spend a lot of time with them, or you don't, or what? Oh, you don't have a mic. Okay. Okay, so you want me just to talk about it. And I see people are giving you a nice job, because look at the shape. So when you do, if I were going to do this feedback session, here's what I would do with it. Okay, I had my transcript. I look at this. Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I don't remember if I judged it real high. I don't think I did. And, somewhere you would probably have your record. But boy, look, boy, I nailed the squareness of this now. I would circle this on my transcript. I'd feel really good about that. And I'm looking at this jagged stuff, and hey, look, that was probably this jagged stuff in here, which my consciousness gave me. Oh my, I got white. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Black. Okay. Yeah, there's black there. I didn't get no yellow, no gray. Ah, okay, so no big deal. No windy, angular. I don't quite know what that means. Fluffy. I wouldn't call that. No. Thin line. Felt dizzy. I don't see how that fits. Okay, something it's on. Okay, so I got some really good stuff. I feel really good about that. I don't know where this came from. But if I'm going to learn something, I would like to maybe even draw, this was good, but had I drawn a real square, and I'd put it right on my transcript. Some people do another sheet of paper. But then if I really want to learn something, you know what? I didn't get a key color here. I even, when I did this, I wanted this to be an example. I'd like to learn what brown feels like from my subconscious level back up and down. Make that communication channel. So I'm looking at brown now. Brown, brown. So this is how I learn. And I put energy into learning to make it clear to my subconscious that this is what brown means to me. Oh, and also as I'm doing that, I'm now seeing multiples. You know, had I drawn multiple lines, maybe multiple little things like this, boy, that would have been helpful too. So I always try to add in my sessions something which would have made this even clearer and would have made it, you know, a 5, something like that. So that's what I would do. So there's the second example I chose. That's why I felt dizzy. Let me see if I can understand that comment. I wonder if one focuses on hits rather than misses if you teach a different path than guidance. Focusing on hits. Maybe, you know, everybody has to come up with, Anita, I'm talking to you in your comment. Everybody needs to come up with that themselves. You saw what Anita no, it focuses on hits. Well, you're the one who was saying that. Anyway, everybody comes up with their own specific way of doing this, and as they keep learning, usually at the beginning, it might get modified in pretty big ways, but then eventually it usually only gets modified in small ways. You get in a rhythm in your protocol, and then it won't change very much. And within that rhythm, you keep learning. In other words, whatever rhythm you come up with, it just allows you to keep learning. You keep yourself open to that. I say you gave reasons why you might have been dizzy. And you want to know something? That's good. There's some trainers who actually want you to figure out what was right about it. I personally don't go that far, because in ARV, I want it to be something which is pretty obvious so that during the judging stage, you will in fact say, oh yeah, I see that this goes with this picture. But you know, at the time, had you said, oh, maybe this is, I'm dizzy because it's whatever reason, then you might have given it an appropriate letter as being, yes, this goes with this picture. Okay, good. Thank you. So that's feedback. Any other questions, comments? Want to make not only general suggestions, but if you do something different, please share it, because that might resonate with somebody else. Ultimately, and I think this group, understanding consciousness is fundamental, and personal consciousness is very real, and all these decisions are always made at the personal consciousness level. Please, you can share your personal approach, even if it's different than the one I'm putting out.
Marty, I'm sorry, what was the outcome?
No.
I know we passed, but what was actually the outcome?
No. In other words, it did not go down to 20%. It went down pretty dramatically, but it did not go down to 20%.
We just didn't get the 20. Darn.
Well, I don't know why darn. No, we passed, so we were sort of neutral towards it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I wish we had predicted yes. In fact, what you're seeing here, notice in both cases, this was the photo site attached to, no, I'm sorry. This was the photo site attached to no, and I wish we had predicted no.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, fair enough. Let's go into a new prediction, unless I missed something from the chat box.
Yeah, Marty, this is Lila again.
Yep. Hi, Lila.
Sorry, my computer keeps just blacking out.
Yeah.
And I have to reconnect every time. So anyway, I did not receive a feedback link to this webinar session?
It turns out I did send it, and I think I sent it with an oops, because the first time I sent it, I didn't send it out to everybody, and then I did. I'll send it to you again personally after this is all over.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
I know you did a session, yeah. And if I
Okay,
don't
great.
get it to you, like within a half an hour after this is all over, email me to remind me.
Okay.
Could you do me too, Marty, please, Donna? Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah. In fact, let me write a note here. And still, if I don't do it, remind me. Okay, Lila, and that was Donna. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you.
Feedback email. Very good. So let's go on to do a prediction. So now we're going to do a prediction basically in linear time. We're going to do one starting with, guess what? The remote viewing session. We're going to try to do this one with minimum of front loading. So how do I start? You need to start, right? Describe and sketch your XXXX feedback target, and you have to get a coordinate. So it's the thing which is associated with the feedback target. And we do that through email. So let's do it. I already did the tasking for this. Now let's see if I can find it. Where is my email? I wonder if my, I switched systems here. Interesting. Okay, I can get it this way. I have to show here. I'm now on Microsoft Office. Okay, so there's my email. Here's the training. So here is the tasking. So you can see it here. I'll just make it a little bigger. So this goes to the webinar workshop members. And in this case, I'm representing all of us. So we'll all get the same target and the same coordinate. And you can see what it says. Transcripts due Wednesday. That's today. The event will be, will any horse win the Triple Crown for 2018? This was suggested to me by Teresa, who has a horse racing group. She loves the ponies, but why not? This is off for several months, so it's a long-term one. And again, user-friendly. This would be in your email for your particular group. And then all you do is click here. And then you have to put in your personal email address. So I'm using us, as a demonstration here. These are all the we groups, but this is the one we're doing, webinar workshop. And we'll do one coordinate. In fact, almost everybody is back to one coordinate. I may even take the two coordinate away someday, but some people still like to do two. In terms of practice, that's probably a good idea. Anyway, and then you get a page like this. So now, immediately, we now have our coordinate. So on top of what is going to become your transcript, write down the coordinate 972,364. 972,364. We're now doing the very, very beginnings of a remote viewing session. You haven't started doing the kind of the psychic part yet, but you have the coordinate. The next phase is for you to do your transcript, and I'll lead you into that. But I know some of you may want to turn off your mics and you can just go do it, those of you that feel comfortable. But for the video and for any newbies, I'm going to go through the rest of describing this. But that's how simply you get your coordinate. The next step is to do a remote viewing session. After you get your transcript, you will upload it to your computer and then bring it in here and then click the browse button and hit submit. And then that goes to the server and is saved, and it becomes part of your record. So that's how you get your transcript. It's that simple. You click on one link. Okay, so now you're getting into your remote viewing mindset, to sort of reminding yourself you're doing this purposely. You're reminding yourself that consciousness is fundamental, much more fundamental than time. Who cares about time? And that you're going to entangle with your feedback session whenever it is. And the link happens to be your coordinate. You've seen examples. Words at this sort of level are what come up rather naturally. With sketches, very often the gestalts will come up first, the very big picture kinds of things. So for newbies, I'm just reminding you that just be open to getting this sort of information. You won't get, like some people think, gee, I ought to get the immediate picture. No, in fact, Russ Targ says if you got that, you didn't do remote viewing. The information seems to come up rapidly, but again, Joe McMoneagle Monday said it's almost like having a bunch of rubber bands all intertwined, and you need to pick them out, and you get little pieces at a time, either in words, feelings, sensations, sketches, all of those sorts of things. And these are the kinds of information. You get anything your nervous system can give you. Now, this is also when you set your intention and you're beginning to pay a lot of attention to what's coming up from your subconscious when you do your remote viewing, and expectation. Your intention is to describe and sketch your feedback target, of course, and you make that really clear that when you see the feedback for that coordinate, that's your intention, is to describe that now, so the information is going to come to you, and you're expecting that to happen. You just build up this confidence level after doing it over and over and over again, that this is going to happen, and that you're going to keep getting better and better at it, and you're not perfect. Joe also talked about that. Don't expect to be perfect, but do expect this time to get it right, and sometimes you won't. But your expectation is that this time you're going to do a really, really good session. Okay, so let's do it. Get out a piece of paper. Some people, and if you would like, I can send you this one. Some people make it on their own. It's easy to do on a Word doc, and you can print out as many copies as you want, but I'm happy to send you one that you can copy. And typically, and this is the way they're trained, you put your coordinate at the top of the page in the middle. TRN is transcript reference number, or target. The T, I'd like to think of it more as target reference number, because that's what this coordinate is attached to. Put your name and date on the right. Again, say that coordinate out loud. And so all this stuff is sort of the preliminaries, very simple. You get yourself ready, doing cool down, and you're going to begin by, and again, a lot of people don't do this, but many do, because this is part of the CRV training, is you do like a squiggle, which is called an ideogram. It's like a pictogram. Some people actually want to think of it as a pictogram, where they draw almost like a first sketch. Everybody's a little different, but it's quick, 1-2 seconds. And that gets things going. Ingo Swan and Joe think embedded in there as you're doing that, all the information has come up, and now you unravel it with the rest of the thing. Gestalts tend to come in first, sketches, and you've seen a lot of transcripts where the sketches are intermixed, But in this approach, and some people still do that, you might put your words here, sketches here, but it comes to people in different ways, and they like to do it in different ways. If you start getting too intellectual about this, that's what the AOLs are, analytical overlays, write it on the right. The subconscious material has a different feeling to it. The ultimate of that is a surprise. Something comes up and it like came out of nowhere. That's information from your subconscious. Uh, and that feeling is very different than after getting some elements, some perceptions. You make like a connection in your mind, red, blue, oh, it must be a ball. And it just has a different feeling. It's where the intellect has put things together, as opposed to getting it directly from the subconscious. The good information is all coming from the subconscious. Okay, so with that, cool down is indeed very important. Joe thinks it's a major part. Getting quiet, getting into the place where you're connecting up with your target for the cue, for the coordinate or target reference number, in this case 972364. And now what I'm going to do is give you 10 minutes. And those of you listening to the recording, take the 10 minutes and you do a session as well. And roughly half of it, and this is rough, again, everybody is different, it can be used for cool down to get the sense that you're connecting up with the feedback session time. And then half for doing a session. You'll get information, you'll put it on your transcript, then you'll go back down, get more information, put it on your transcript. You're setting your expectations, your intention. You're acting almost like a witness, but you're writing it on your transcript at the same time. This is the link if you ever wanted to use this yourself. On this, there is a 5-minute notice. And then when there's 1 minute left, and also I'll say it a little bit louder, these are relatively low. So with that, let's begin. You've got about 1 minute to go. Perhaps get one more element from the target. Okay, come on back to your normal state of awareness. You might stretch a little bit. What we're about to get into is the judging, which is very intellectual, intended to be that way, but there's clearly an aspect of intuition with it, in terms of how some of the elements, precepts that you got, sketches, how your personal subconscious might have connected that to the target. And, but even if it's like right on, just don't let yourself get too emotional here. Emotions seem to be one of the real carriers of information and entanglement. And that's just like in your regular life. I mean, you tend to remember those very, very happy moments, the very traumatic, very sad moments, the really joyful ones, more than, um, uh, the common everyday ones. So this is analogous to that. So let's go forward with the judging. Right now, we need to do the yes or no. Now, how does that happen? So we're going to match the two possible transcripts. I'm showing you this one. This is not your target. I considered whether or not to do this, but here it is. This is not your target. This is an example which shows the A-B technique, which I would like you to do. So this was one of the two possible targets that Lila got back in February. And you can see, compared to the photo site A target, which we're about to get for our set, and the photo site B, she would write an A. Sometimes they match both, A and B. And some words have nothing. They don't match either. And notice there's a little a here, which says, well, it's sort of matched, but not as strong as the big A. And every now and then I've seen people put huge, big A's in. So, in fact, in this case, her circles might very well have been a huge big A. But let's now go get our two targets. So again, I need to go, nope, I need to go back to where we were here. So you remember right before you did your transcript, we were here. Here's where you got your coordinate. You would now bring it into your computer. And I'm hoping, don't do that yet. For this one, I'm going to want you to judge it and then send it to me so we can all look at it and talk about it. But what I do is, since I don't do these, in fact, I was setting up my Excel sheet and things like that. What I have is a dummy transcript just so I can go to the next step. And I don't know what happened. Let's do it again. Where did it go? So it's probably, that's, oh, here. That was a little bit strange. Okay. Open. There we go. So it's now in here. And you would do that with your transcript, and then all you do is click submit. And then expect, now you're in your judging mode, you'll expect to see first the first picture. And some people, and again, viewers in charge, some people will not even want to look at the second picture. They will put, this is photo site A, so they'll put all the A's against all the elements and sketches that match this one, and then they'll go to B. So that's what B is, but below that we have them both, and you can actually make them bigger if you click on that. Sometimes they come in bigger. That time it didn't. Okay, wait, let's go back to here. So some people then just immediately go here and they'll go through each element to mark an A or a B or an A or B or nothing. So what I'm going to do now is make this big and have you start with the A, B's. And then I want to also tell you about the TARG scale. But first, I really want you to mark all the A's, all the B's, and a sketch sometimes has enough information of a different type where you might mark each type. If you sort of feel that the sketch is composed of multiple elements, you can give it 2 A's or 2 B's. So, and this is where some of the judgment comes in. This is part of the process of watching how your consciousness makes connections with the target. Not now. Your connections are all with the feedback photo site target that you're going to see in actually a few months. But time doesn't matter. Okay, if you're not done, I'm just going to take a little pause here. It's worth as much time as it takes for you to do this, so I'll get you back to it. But what I want to do now is go back to this transcript. So you're in this A-B phase here. And again, the judging is, at least in my opinion, one of the most difficult parts of this. The remote viewing, you open yourself up to be like a witness. You're a receiver from your subconscious at the feedback. You're going to be doing it, maybe each in your own way, but basically that's when you know the truth. Here, you are marking things. Now, I think it was Anita talks about how she often finds she didn't do the judging right. I say here, she counted these, but there's more than just the counting. There's weighting factors you want to give things, and that's where the subjective stuff comes in. Like here, her circles were so good, okay, that I think she should have given more credit to that rather than just a B. And there were other things here which were so good. And I think I said this at the time we happened to reviewed this one, that I definitely would have made it at least a 3.5, maybe even higher. Look at the lines here radiating out. Okay, so our sketches here happen to be particularly good. I'm saying that because the other thing which over time we have found out, consciousness is so fundamental that whether we like it or not, your consciousness does indeed have access to both possible targets, not the actual, but the possible. And we often see people give a really good description of that. And that happens to be true even if it's a totally independent judge. We've done experiments with that. And even with independent judging, where the viewer will never see the other target, the non-actualized actual target, they'll give a very, very good description of it. And we don't know why. You know, people, I always tell them to ask your subconscious why it did that. So I'm going to show you two approaches just to have in mind as you're going through this with your judging. She considers it a danger zone. And so if you consider it dangerous, put up a wall of some sort, perhaps. That was my suggestion. What she wants is for you to somehow block it. By considering it dangerous, her belief is that's enough to keep it away. I want to go one more step and minimize the entanglement by isolating this AJ session by putting up a psychic wall. Intend and expect that your AJ session will have minimum interactions with anything outside this particular session. So what you're doing right now is as minimally connected with everything else as possible. And that's what your intention is. We know everything is connected, but we have the ability to minimize or maximize that. And the other thing I want to say is that there's different kinds of weightings that people use. A lot of the groups are still taught to just do basically the A-B approach, take the ratio of the number of A's to the total number of possible elements that there were, and so you get a fraction between 0 and 1, and then you do that with the photoside B matches, you get another fraction, and if the fraction is over, say, about 50%, you begin to get into, well, maybe there's a real match here, and you give it high marks. But that doesn't take into account what Joe McMoneagle thinks is important, and I also think is important, and a lot of other people do too, and that has to do with these gestalts. He, in fact, will sometimes do multiple sessions for a client, and the first thing they'll do is to see if he's getting close to being the target, and he'll only go for gestalts. Am I on the target? Do I have the right gestalts? If not, I'll start another session. He does. So he thinks the gestalts are that important. Are you into the big picture of the target? And he, in fact, when he judges, he'll give 50% weight to these first impression gestalts. And what are these? I say things like smacks you in the face, gets you in the ballpark. There can be more than one. There might be a dominant color, but there also might be even dominant geometry or dominant mountain or, super ocean or who knows what. But, there would be something which is major, and there may be more than one of them in there. And then the other 50% is the AB approach. So you can see the kind of weight that he then gives these first impression gestalts. And you can do something in between, like the example with Lila, just getting those good pictures, which clearly captured the gestalt of a good part of that with the circles and with the lines. That's why she might very well have raised the confidence ranking. But again, it's a judgment. This is the judgment place. This is just a little sketch. Again, going from 0 to 2 now, because you go from 0 to 1 with the gestalts. If you got kind of all the major gestalts, you really feel like you nailed the gestalts. That gets you up so far. And then you add to that, again, you do that for the photosite A comparisons, photosite B comparisons. You add that fraction, and that'll get you up in this chart someplace. So, and 3.5, as it turns out, is wagerable. Okay, ultimately, we are using what is called the TAR confidence ranking system. These are CRs. You'll see that referred to a lot. And it goes 0 to 7. 0, 1, and 2 are from nothing to what you consider random. If you went into the dictionary and chose a random word, hey, you might get a match. You chose 5 random words, you might take that until you got a match, but it still wouldn't be psychic. But, there's a certain level of matches that you might get. And again, that might be ratios from 0 up to 10, 20, 30, 40%. By the time you get to a 3, you're now saying as a judge, you feel you made psychic connection. There's a mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the correct elements to indicate that the viewer has made contact with the target. That would be a CR of 3. A CR of 4 is good correspondence now. Notice the word good came in for the first time, with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. Okay, so that's why I say you're getting up into the range now where you're past the margin of being psychic, but you really feel, yes, this was psychic, and you got this good correspondence going on. Now a 5 is good correspondence, but he's added new keywords here, high-level words of matches, unambiguous, unique matchable elements. So this is something which you feel makes it really clear that this indeed was the target. A 5 is really, really good, but there's still some incorrect information. And then 6s and 7s bring in information which is like related to the analytical overlay. You intellectually might have in fact named the function of the target. With the 7, you might have even named the target. And here there's very little incorrect information. Here there's essentially no incorrect information. You nailed everything, and your AOLs were correct. But even without AOLs, if you get a 5, that is considered very, very good. Some people simply know enough to not get those AOLs at all. They just simply get the information from their subconscious. So the highest they could go is a 5. And you know what? Give yourself a 5. That's considered very good. You might want to up it to a 7, but I don't know what to tell you. I'm very happy when I see 5s. If you use Joe's technique, he doesn't bring the AOLs in there. And so sometimes we see 7s. So 5, 6, or 7, in my opinion, are really about the same. So notice, ultimately, what you are saying is what you have the confidence in terms of, as a judge, in terms of the match, that this indeed is going to be the target. So I can now, as the administrator, or the judge, can now take an action. So what I'd like you to do now, and you've already started, is to put an A and a B, which you're doing on your transcripts, but now you have to convert it to a CRA and a CRB and put that on your transcript labeled, I think, just this way: CRA equals a number from 0 to 7, and it can be a half, and the same thing for CRB. And then email me your judged transcripts. And I think all of you know my email address, marty@p-i-a.com. Okay, and then I'm going to collect all of these, and we'll talk about them all. We'll take the time to talk about them all one at a time, and then we'll make a group prediction. So now continue with your judging. Do the CRA, CRB on your transcript, and I'm now going to put the TARG scale on the screen. With those pictures, if I can get this right. Bear with me. Okay, so I've got that. And this I want to escape. And let's make this smaller. Okay, so there you've got it. Let me see if I can make that any bigger. So, as I said, take as much time as it takes. This is a very important step. You'll be making a lot of judgments on each element, and then a final judgment here. And then email it to me. Okay, good. Thank you, Donna. I see you've given me that, which is good. I can put that on there on my table now. But I've now made it easier for people. I want them just to put it on their transcript, and then when we talk about them, I'll put them in my table just to save one step. But I appreciate you doing it anyway. Okay, I'm now going to get a transcript to replace where the TAR confidence ranking system is. I think you have a good sense of that by now. And if not, I'll put it up again. But if you haven't finished your judging, please take your time, as much time as it takes. Back to my inbox. Okay, let me, so Anita, right. Just making sure. Okay, so Anita's, there's a first. No, that's not a transcript. Okay, so Patricia is the first transcript. There you go. Go there. And let me reduce my email. Oops, what did I just reduce? Let me put that over here, maybe. Oh. No, I don't want that. Okay. I want to get all of yours. And then let's make this go over to there. Okay, there we are. So let's see, Patricia, good. You've got the ratios. Yeah, kind of low, I agree. And so you could give a 0, 1 based on that. Let's see, did you feel like you got the gestalt here? You can put on your mic. Maybe you don't want to. I see that shape, office inside in a building. Okay, interesting. The fact that you got inside is also why. And then the structure indoors. You got wall. Why aren't do I see 6 A's? Yeah, I guess I'm just not seeing it. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll tell you something else that I like. The A's came in right away. So you gave yourself a 3.5. Sounds reasonable to me. You know, I don't see any major, well, indoors is a pretty good gestalt. Because of the walls back here, though it looks bricky. Anyway, I can't quarrel with the 3.5. And let me put that down here. So 3.5 and a 0. And if anybody else wants to comment on any of these, you can feel free. We don't want to take too much time on each one, but that's good. So thank you, Patricia. And again, if you have anything you want to say, please turn on your mic or put something in the chat box. Okay, very good. You're putting stuff in the chat box so we can all read it there. Okay. Very good. Let's go to the next email. Okay, so that's good. I can do it this way. Yeah, here's Lila. I wish I had a way of rotating, but I will rotate yours using Snagit. So I will capture it. I need to open the editor. Image it, rotate clockwise. How big can I make it from here? Oh, not too bad. Put that there. Close that. Okay, Lila, why don't you talk to us about this? I see, okay, you gave yourself a 3 and a 3.5. I'll give you my opinion, I know you don't mind.
Yes, I love your opinion.
And I want others, because it is all opinion, it's the judge, and what you do is over time you learn about yourself, and so it's your opinion that matters.
So I was interrupted because my computer again decided to go to sleep.
Right.
And so I have my laptop next to me. That's why you see my name twice.
Okay.
I have my laptop and my desktop.
Right.
And okay, so at first, now I like to see one photo at a time. That's how I like to do it personally.
Okay, good.
And when I saw the first one, I got a little excited because I thought my colors pertained to that one. But I have nothing in the way of metal, not very much really pertain to photosite A. And then when I saw photosite B, I got a little more excited because my dimensions and my dynamics fit that one more. And my ideograms, my gestalt and my ideograms, I think fit B better than A.
Right. Motorized.
Motorized. I cracked up at that. Of course it's motorized. It's got feet. It can walk. To me, that's what motoring is.
Okay, cool. Right.
Zigzags. Sometimes they run in a zigzag fashion if they're scared. They don't necessarily walk in a straight line always.
Right.
Their feathers are stuck together.
Right, and perched is good.
And perched also might go to photosite A. I think that's a bird. You
could have put a little B, a little, yeah, you put an A there.
Oh, I put an A there, yeah.
You didn't put a B there, right. Okay, I see, right.
My textures were way off. I didn't get really any of the textures.
Or the sounds.
That's okay.
Yeah, they're both familiar. Now, I like to look at your sketches because I know, and I don't know if everybody else knows your style yet, but you do them first and you put them down here.
Yeah.
And so that's equivalent to ideogram sketches combination.
Well, sketches also come while I'm doing the words as well.
Oh, so some of these others, this might be later?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily attached. Like that kind of looks like it might be a sideways jellyfish, but it's not.
Right.
It's just a curve. The curve came and then the wavy lines came after, and that's just where I put them.
Yeah, and you see, and you're the only one that knows that. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is curved, and this is curved.
Yeah.
This has got wavy lines.
The wavy line could be implying water because geese go in water. So
Well,
I don't
also
know. Maybe
they've got wavy stuff here.
yeah.
Yeah, but nothing super strong, and so
No.
you're ranking,
No.
and that's fine. And nothing. This is not a pass. You went
Mhm.
3.5. Um, but the fact that the two numbers are close, also, and who knows? Now that I'm looking at this, some of these pairs were done way back. In fact, this pair was approved by Russ Targ. I actually paid for this pair upon his suggestion. But I'm looking at it and I'm not sure I like it very much. And I
I
want
really
you
don't like the pair because the colors are too close.
well,
But
the green, yeah, but white, everything has white and black, but the green would distinguish this one in
yeah.
terms of colors. But I agree with you. This is probably a bird cage.
Yeah.
And here we have a type of bird. And
Uh,
so I'm going to make myself a note. And I change these, our target pool gets better with time because when I make a judgment like that, I have new pairs to put in. And I just have to find out what its S number is. That's what we call it, set number, target set number. Okay.
so I didn't feel too confident in
Correct.
this session.
Now, let me ask you this question. Would you actually wager a few bucks on this or not?
No, I don't believe I would.
Then let me suggest next time, and if you want, I'll even put it in here this way. You make the B a 3 or an A 3.5. Because if you put it in this way, under your ranking,
Oh,
your
right.
personal hits, this will go as B, which may or may not be right. But it
Yeah.
sounds like, if you wouldn't wager on it, you really want it to be, you don't want to
Then,
go in with what's a 50-50 probability.
yeah, yes, I agree. Thank you. So let's make the A a 3.5.
Okay.
Because I think I do have a couple of significant things there. So it's not just chance, but it's
Perfect.
not great.
Okay. So
compared to
that's
my
just
other
what
ones.
I did. I put it,
Okay.
and that is
Thank
what
you.
I recommend. When
Okay.
these are a half apart for sure,
Yeah.
sometimes if there's one apart, that's kind of when a judgment comes in. Again, this thing is filled with judgments. Because when we've done independent studies, differences of rankings of one for judges are common. And so I personally like to see it to be bigger than one.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And so even if it was a one, but again, it's a judgment because, now you finished the normal judging and you're going to the CRs. And if this had been a 3 and a 4, well, you might have wanted to left the 4 or you might have wanted to made the 3 or 4, but at least you should think about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good, Lila. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
And let's now go find this. I don't think that's one of the people here. Well, I can take a quick look. Oh, it is. Okay, good. Image. Open. Oh, it's you, Arthur. Okay. Let's have you turn on your mic and tell us about this one. And let me see how you, a 5 and 2.
There we go.
Okay, good. So you're confident. I'll put that in the table. And why don't you just talk to us? Let me get it so that it stands with the pictures.
Okay.
There
All
we
right.
go.
I
Let's see if I can make it bigger. I think I can make it bigger. Yeah, there you go.
okay. All right. Well, where should I begin? The one at the top. I have it has a whole series of small Well, like I say in the background, the smaller lumps, like I put it, with a large one in the front. Now I scored them equally because the neck of the goose would be the long
Yeah.
things that are coming up, and the others, the little ones, I don't know what those were, but I scored that as a 1. My drawing, I have it a little bit thicker than what I remembered, so I corrected it in the to the right.
Okay, that's okay.
My description, but just a quick drawing, really easy.
Right.
Okay, and the way I the information comes to me seems to it comes to the top right hand side, so that's why I scored that a little bit more. Now the second one, I have it. It's like a set of drapes or like a Spanish tile type of thing, where it's more vertical lines.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to draw that sideways, like the to make it seem like it's curvy.
Mm-hmm.
But in the picture A, it is more it is curvy, but still it doesn't look like drapes.
Right.
But still
But it's got the curves here too. Interesting.
still has the curves. But the goose's neck then has the set has that. So I scored that 0, but probably I should have scored each one of them 1.
Or you could have given this a half.
Well, yeah, I guess, but still, it's right in the right position.
Right. Okay.
For that center that it hits. So I should have put 1, but it really doesn't matter.
Right.
But the third one there, the third one is the lower bottom, and that shows the entire thing, where it shows all its slats going every which way. It's like a set of toes or a picket fence or something like that description. But it's all vertical and tightly squished together. That's why I probably should have maybe scored that maybe a 2, and the goose 1. Then the other 2 below that I put AOL because I was done and the information kept coming in, so I just jotted them down. So the one is like I put like a big mouth bass because it was kind of like a round thing, and it looked like lips or something. So I don't know where that came from, but it looked like one of those 2 bowls up on the top, and then the last one down the bottom it looked like a stack of maybe of 78 RPM records, whatever. And
okay. So these A's and B's right down here,
yeah,
the sum of your A's and B's here.
I just totaled them up and gave a final score.
So you're giving, so this final score you're saying is a CRA, and you intend this to be a CRA using the TARG scale of a 4. Yeah. And okay. And what is the CRB? What do I put down for you for the CRB?
CRB was, well, just I scored just A was 4, and then when I have the total up above that, total A is 5, B is 2. The score that I'd be betting on would be number A would be 4.
So you don't care about CRB.
well, I do, but it is just the matter of scoring that I did, because
yeah.
Sometimes I can the information keeps coming on and on and on.
I understand.
Sometimes it's very slight. So
I would like you, and if you do the WE system, it'll demand that you put in something. Well, if you don't, it'll go in as a 0. But what would you say now using TARG? What would you do for B?
Well, that would be 4. TARG 4, because that would
that's A.
That would be the gambling.
That's A. What would you do for CRB?
CRB, I'd go maybe maybe a 2 at the best.
Really? Okay, I'll give you a 2. Okay, Arthur, you've got an interesting style, and I know you and I have talked about this, but just for everybody else, he just tends, not tends, I think this is his intention, to see the upper right, the center, and then the lower left.
Yeah.
And okay, very good. Thank you. Again, everything becomes personal. Let's do the next one. Okay, Donna. 5 and a 1. Yep, I have you. Oh, good. Here you are. Let me see. It doesn't want to go to the right. I'll do it manually. Get rid of that. Lower that. And there we are. Gee, I think I'm finally getting better at this. Okay. Talk to us. So, yeah. Oop. Oh, wait, Donna, there's something wrong with the audio. You're sounding like water. Okay. And now I've lost you.
What to do is actually quit the computer.
No, wait, is everybody else hearing her as water too? In and out? Could others understand it? Is it her end or at my end? Please, somebody else.
Yes, it sounds like she's underwater.
Okay, yeah, they're saying you're breaking up. Try one more time. Change something, otherwise I'll do it. Try talking again, but you're breaking up.
Okay. Do you want me to call in and get rid of the computer speaker? Or?
Yeah, it just isn't sounding good. Let me do it, and why don't you put comments in the chat box to everyone? But when I first look at this, I mean, I see very rectangular. I mean, when this was paired, they were looking at the big difference being the rectangular. This is very, man-made, where this is very natural. And that's the contrast there. In fact, I want you to know sometimes I give myself a sub-cue to describe and sketch not only the target, but those aspects which are very different from the others, since I know my consciousness knows it anyway. And at first blush, that was what I got out of your sketches. Everything you're doing here is rectangular. So I think that's really good. And then motion can open. Yeah, well, yeah, okay. I would have done that with a little a. The propeller was different. The propeller is just so obvious motion. This is, I look at that and I think stable, but that's me. But, your sub has to learn how to communicate with you. And again, all I do is give my impressions. It's up to each person to make that communication channel connection with themselves. Plates, yep, flat. Let's see. Boy, yeah, there are not many B's at all, which is really good. See, I like your separation, a 5 and a 1, and I was looking at, yeah, see, inside. Okay. Oh, you can't hear me, Donna? Is everybody else hearing me?
I'm still hearing you.
Okay, so obviously we have a communication problem, Donna. But in terms of the judging that you did, I You gave it a 5, and I, as I say, a 5 is really good, but the particular rectangular nature of this, it's interesting, this little hook. I don't know if your sub was trying to give you a little bit, hey, there is a little bit of non-rectangular stuff in here too. And you say circles are ornate. Interesting. So you did even get the circles. So that's pretty good. That's very good. Wood or metal. I wonder what this is. This may be a wooden perch, in fact. Not sure. Okay, very good, Donna. I'm sorry you couldn't speak with us, but thank you for doing this. And that's in the system as in my summary as a 5 and a 1. Okay. Let's see if we have more. Yep, Evelyn. Oop. Correction for feedback coordinates. 9. So yeah, this is the right one. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's see what you did here, Evelyn.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Oh. Wow.
Am I too loud or something?
Oh, no, it was just there was some extra vibration in the background. No, I hear you fine.
Well,
so first let me find the rankings.
Yeah, let me go get.
No, it looks like you gave it a 2.
Off of the scanner.
A 2 and a 3.5.
Yeah, that was a hard one to get. I could have easily passed on it because I really was closer to 3.0, but I wanted to tell you why I didn't.
Okay.
I don't know if you realize I'm in that, is it RPG or whatever his name is, the guy from Germany that Igor gave us to?
Igor's group.
Yeah, and it's very hard because you have no idea what you're doing. You're just supposed to do 5 things and say whether their emotions are positive, negative, or and I've been anywhere from 0 to 80%, but my usual one is 60%, and that's 60 and above is what he's looking for. So I'm kind of at the bottom of it, but at least I'm there, and so it's you're concentrating on the emotions because that's what you're supposed to do. So I think it's starting to affect my other sessions a little bit in that how I'm kind of trying to concentrate on the emotions of the people that are around the event, because I don't know whether it's an event or what we're doing. He's never told us what we're actually viewing. And it's like being in the military, kind of.
He doesn't give you feedback?
The only feedback we get is whether we're right with positive, negative, or uninvolved, he calls it, which I think is close to being a pass.
That's like okay, so that's that kind of feedback. Okay.
That's the only feedback we get is whether we're right, whether we're right or wrong on our of those. It's 1 out of 3 things rather than 1 out of 2. So you're not getting 50% with each one, but in my 5, I usually get 60% right. I've had as many as 4 right.
Okay, but let's get back to here.
So it's all emotions and all that. So I think that's affecting how I'm doing things, because in this one, in the middle there's a whole bunch of writing, and all of that is basically people talking and that I think are standing in a park. I think it's the people that are standing looking at this duck who's in a park. Right. And that's, so that's kind of swayed me. Otherwise it would have been a 2 and a 3 and I would have just passed, because the drawings could go either way, mostly towards the cage, I guess, but I was seeing the up and down lines and I was seeing sideways lines, and actually if you look at that goose, there's up and down lines on her neck and or his neck, I don't know which it is,
right.
and sideways lines on the feathers, and and the colors were, most of the colors I got were really for the goose, and most of the gestalts were more for outdoors and water and biological. So most of the gestalts were for the goose, but the drawings,
Yeah, but
you
the
know,
biological
yeah, the drawings could be more
outdoors.
looked at like the cage, but really I think that the goose's feathers, if you look at them, have some of those lines
Right.
too. And the word puffiness, that was real strong. And so
Mhm.
I gave that a fig. And the back of that goose, you know, you see the puffy white goose down feathers on her
Oh yeah,
bottom there.
all of here, sure.
So I gave that a fig, and then I gave all the drawings a fig, and so basically it could be a pass. I wouldn't feel bad about it being a pass, but I really think that I was getting the impression of people in a park.
Okay, so you left it as a 3.5. That's fine, no problem, Evelyn. That's
Yep.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's good for everybody to hear. This is judgments, and we have to make those judgments. So, okay, so I have everybody but Patricia. Did I miss you, Patricia? Did we do you, or did you not send me a thing? Let me get rid of this video, and let me go look and see if Patricia did send something and I just missed it. Are you still here, Patricia? I'm having, let me see, let me get my chat stuff up again. I lost that. Oh no, well, there's chat, and okay, there. Okay, so Patricia left. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I didn't miss anybody. If I did, please say so.
Hi, Morty. It's Anita. Did you get my transcript?
Okay, so you
I think it came through
did do it.
twice. Yes.
Let's see. Good. I'm glad you tell me because I didn't want to miss anybody. So let's take a look here. Oh, there you are.
Cool.
Okay. Oops, this one looks blank. Oh. No, this is somebody else's. No, wait, I remember this was this you?
No.
No, even though it has, let me close that and try again. Oh, here you are. Here, maybe we can just get it from here. Let's make this bigger. Okay. Let's see how to do this.
That's also not mine.
Yeah, let me make it big. No, it's okay. There you go. So now it's nice and big. And let me see if I can put the other on top. And maybe move this.
Oh, that's Patricia.
If I move it over, the other is going to go away, but then I can bring it back. Okay, let's leave it at that. Very good. See, we got it. So you've got a 3.5 and a 0. So I can put that in the table and then tell us, a little bit about it. What your logic was. Or is it obvious? 9. Why does this look familiar? 972. I feel like we did this already. I think I just didn't give you, I just didn't write it down. Yeah, we did this one already. Is it an office inside a medium-sized building? So that was a good question. Okay, so I have you in the system as 3.5 and 0. Yes, I remember doing this one. So we did do this one already. So I think we are ready to bring over this guy. I just didn't write it down. And let's see if I can move stuff over here. Okay, so first of all, make sure I didn't make any mistakes. As you can see, I didn't. I didn't get anything from Daniela. That's the one who I don't know. You may be on cell phone and can't do it or whatever, but that's fine. You're certainly welcome. You don't have to do these. Now I'm going to do a group judging approach, but I really like
Marty,
your inputs.
can you hear me? It's Anita, sorry. Did my
Yes.
email come through to you? Okay, cool.
Yes.
So you've got it.
You okay?
Yes. Did you get my transcript?
I must have. Who am I talking to? It's Anita, right?
Yes. Let me see.
And you're
Those aren't my rankings.
3.50.
No, it's not mine.
Okay.
Mine's a 6 and a 4.
A 6 and a 4. Okay. So let's see. No, but I just can't tell. I'm sorry, I don't have the names all down. Who am I talking to?
Sorry, it's Anita.
It is Anita. So I wonder where I got 3.5 and 0. That.
Maybe your column shifted or something.
I'm dyslexic or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's find you here. Okay. Oh, there you are. So you just came in now.
Okay, because it seems my
301, right.
system.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. No problem. But I don't know why I had something for you. But here you are now. Well, almost here now. Here. Okay, so there's that. There we are. Okay. I don't know if people can see this. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. So you gave yourself a 6 and a 4. So I'll change the table to make that correct. And so I don't see another 3 and a 0. Anyway, other people are seeing theirs and they can correct me, and please do. Okay, so explain the 6. So you had...
I actually first got the bird, but it wasn't the same kind of bird. It was more like a bird on a perch, and I got more the shapes and the aspects of the cage. The colors, the metal, rust industrial, sound like a rusty metal moving, the shadows of the cage, that kind of thing. The squares, the repetitiveness in the cage, circles,
okay.
square, yes. So that's why basically.
Around. Did you get metal? Oh, you got metal. Oh, you did. Well, that's very good. You're right. And let's see.
And I got like ruffling feathers, like I became a bird, but it's more like our parrot, because we've got a parrot with a cage almost exactly like that. And it reminded me 100% of that. I mean, if it was a goose, I've got very sensitive ears. Would have picked up some kind of noise.
Okay, what's interesting is you gave it, I take it these are figs, you gave it a 1 and a 0.75, So the big
Yes.
difference in your case was the ratio of the A's divided by 45 and the B's divided by
Yes.
45. Very good and very
Yes.
interesting.
And the repetitive circles, like the rounds that go around the
Yeah.
cage, the
And
rounds
the
of
round is
mental.
all of this.
And I got like something like the bird was sitting on a perch. So it wasn't something with a long neck flat on the ground or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Where did you get that? Point.
Well, as I've said, it's like almost like I integrate, like I become the target.
I see. Okay.
It's weird.
That's cool, though.
I first
Okay.
see it and then I become it.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. And I understand what you did. And stalts are a big part of this, as they should be. But yes, a lot of matches, vertical lines. The happy face is really a circle, but you're happy because of your
I think it's more.
match
I
too.
think it's. I think it's more the shapes. It's the circle, and then like straight things, and then like semicircle.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
Subconscious has a sense of humor.
Okay, let me go over to. Oh no, this isn't the right one. Here's the right one.
Just put my mute off.
So this is now the CRs. And if there are any errors, let me know. And my approach, and everybody, and we don't have that many group managers, but all the group managers have to develop their own approach. Plus your comments now are welcome. But what I do is mark anything over 3.5. The 3.5s are relevant, but I typically been marking them in gray just to show I don't give them quite as much importance. And there are two here. And here's another yellow. Okay, so in this case, you can just visually look and sort of know that the prediction as a group manager is photo site A. I don't even know if that's yes or no. All I know is it's photo site A at this point. Okay, good enough. And you understand why I did that. If anybody wants to comment, please feel free. And then the next step, which would be, again, for you as an individual, and now that I'm doing this as a group, I think you understand that I now do it right here. This is where we did our judging, where you would do your judging. And so for photo site A, I'm going to make this a 5 because of the 6, 4, 5. And while this was a 4, it didn't have too much backup, so I'm going to make this a 3.5. So my prediction, of course, will be photo site A. And then you put in whatever comments are relevant. And this is a group webinar prediction. Photo site A had CRs of 6, 5, 4, and 2, 3.5. Photo site B. And I think it's good to put in here the justification and any feelings. And like a lot of the words you heard, like this was marginal, but I went for 3.5 anyway. The kind of thought process you had, the feelings you had. CR equal 4 and 2 CR equal 3.5s. And so that kind of justifies what went on here. You click submit, And only now will we know what the prediction is. So the prediction is a no. The computer knew, but it was the only one. And okay, so we're predicting, will any horse win? Somebody asks, will we get to know what the prediction was? And the answer is yes. Here's where it actually prints out the event, often in the tasking. And I actually think in the tasking, we went through it pretty quickly, but if you look closely, I think it would have said exactly the same thing, because this is where it gets it from. Will any horse win the Triple Crown 2018? So we're predicting no. And I'll actually even put this here. So prediction, well, I don't have to put it there. PSA, which was a no. Okay. So let's go back now and finish off the presentational here. I think there's a way of going faster. So we did our judging, and we did that and that. Okay, so now we went through and we put our CRs in. So that's just what we did. And now is when, big time, I'm telling you what the prediction was after the judging in the normal sense. But remember, we live in a precognitive world, and it just forces us thinking about things differently. Just like the consciousness, the matrix, the universe of collective consciousness had all that stuff down there anyway. So your consciousness had access to it. And it's up to you to guide all of that through your subconscious to give you the information you want. And sometimes for reasons which you can probe, it might give you a different answer. And I really do suggest asking that question. And when you get a miss, of course, is a really good time to do that. And if you get quiet, just like when you do a remote viewing session, you ask a question, and listen to what comes up. And again, you'll know when it's coming up from your subconscious. So you're communicating with exactly the right part of the universe, your subconscious. But in this case, we did this one because Teresa pointed out that there really was a wager on this. Will any horse win the Triple Crown? And plus 600 meant that if you put up $100, you'd get your $100 back plus 600. So that's what the bookies thought the odds were. And we went on basically the no side, which if you put 100, you have to put $900 up to get your 900 back plus 100. So this is what, of course, the bookies thinks. The Triple Crowns are rare, but a lot of people understand, and I understand the logic in doing it, because even though you might get a lot of no wagers, at least I wouldn't wager on something like this, when you get that good one, the leverage in terms of your 6-to-1 here, winnings to what you put up is high. So the outcome will be after the Belmont Stakes, which is June 9th. So in June, after June 9th is when we will do the final prediction on this. Okay, questions, comments on the judging that we just did? Probably not. There was plenty of time.
Well, I got a question here, Marty.
Okay, good, Arthur. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, all right. We do all this, and then we ask the computer which is yes or no, and it comes up with, it's like when we do regular remote viewing, we all, instead of all we got to do is just flip a coin. Heads is yes, and tails is no. It's the same thing, isn't it?
You see, I'm surprised you say that, because that's what a lot of people who haven't been in this field for a while say. What you have to recognize is that all that mattered, and yes, the computer did this randomly, but all that matters is that there is a rigid association with the yes picture and the no picture. And you're going to see the yes picture or the no picture in June. And that is what your RV task was about, to describe that. And you're going to see, without exception, what actually happens, period. So it's got very little to do with the computer, except that the computer did the rigid association. That's why it's called associative remote viewing. I mean, so I'm really glad you asked that question, because yes, I use the word computer, and it's set up to be random because we don't want any normal consciousness, though Russ Targ believes, and I frankly believe, that consciousness can read computers too. But that's not the point. The point is, come June, you're going to see the picture which is rigidly associated with the yes or no, period. So the fact that we went with the cage, that's rigidly associated with that. If the cage comes up, fine, that meant it was a no. If by any chance the goose comes up, okay, and that means, and the only way the goose will come up, which is if there is a Triple Crown winner, period. And what was your task? Your task had nothing to do with the computer. Your task was to describe and sketch what you're going to see for coordinate 972364. That target reference number associated with that 972364. So that target will be either this or that, depending on what actually happens. Did that help?
Well, I'm still just as confused because either way, if I assign A to yes and B to no, it still would work out either, because I have no idea what either one of them is to begin with.
But you would see a different picture as feedback, and you would be expected to describe the other picture in the scenario that you just outlined.
Okay, but the whole thing, what makes it so beautiful is the whole thing so crazy that it works. I mean,
well, let me just say one other thing. And in some ways, that's right. Your intellect can't get it because your intellect is totally attached to linear time. The only way this makes sense is with the retrocausality approach, namely the picture that you're going to see in June, the photo site that you're going to see in June influences your remote viewing session, period. And once you accept that, then everything else becomes clear.
Well, yeah, because sometimes when we do do some of the APP stuff, when we did it in Las Vegas, I mean, we do the remote viewing, then we would pick the targets, and then to make it even worse, then we'd pick the number. I mean, the A and B. I mean,
right. And we do all that to make absolutely clear to everyone that it's retrocausality, which is just precognition looked at backwards. So, but it's retrocausality which is at play. I mean, the pictures weren't even chosen until, after the transcripts were done.
Right, and then it was picked at random. I mean,
right. Believe it or not, that's the same thing here.
My gosh,
the computer is doing it all.
Okay, but let's suppose that I take Igor's sets, whatever the pairings that he does. Mm-hmm. I don't have them yet because I don't have I'll have to find out how I can put them on my Mac computer rather than on my my PC. But if I were to pick two pictures at first, two photo sites for a particular target that I want to do anyway, so I want to do a football game. Well, I can do this. I mean, how am I going to do that? Because A and B, unless I were to just assign the flip of a coin after I even pick it. I mean, that's the whole thing's nuts. But it works.
Exactly. And for you, Arthur, don't think about it. But you know what you've done, and it connects with what I, in a way, want to talk about next, which is how would you possibly convince a society who, as a whole, and remember, it's a society, a world society, but let's just U.S. society as a whole, who would say just what you said. If we try to explain ARV, even though, I try to make it as simple as possible, they would go through just what you said. This makes no sense because I've done that. My wife only got to get this after seeing so many correct ones that she has to believe it. You know what I mean? And so finally she's getting that retrocausality is part of our world. But that's hard. And so to convince society of this is our challenge. And you know what?
Here's a possible answer to that.
Okay.
In your APP section, when we had in Las Vegas there, there was a new guy that came in, and he was a statistician.
Right.
Statistician. Okay, all right. And he says, I don't. We were trying for 70% correct, and maybe you can get 80. He says I don't care about that. He says give me 51%, and I can make $1 million.
Well, right. but don't you understand, Art? That's already been done over and over and over again. The statistics have been done. It's been proven statistically. And the next step, which is what we're now taking on, is how much do you think society listens to statistic versus listening to money talks?
Money talks.
Exactly. So while 51%, frankly, is not enough because of commissions and stuff like that, 70, 80% is. And that's what the best viewers get. And so we're now trying to turn that into money. We will be turning that into money. And then society, I believe, will listen more closely. And ultimately, as they start pondering what all this means, like how can retrocausality be real? What's the real meaning of consciousness is fundamental? We hope they get that really we live in a spiritual world in a physical context. And that's sort of the glimpse of what I believe the consciousness paradigm shift is going to lead to. People will have a much better and live their lives with this better understanding of what the spiritual world is, where time is very secondary. Time is there, and Einstein said this, we can only experience one thing at a time, right? You've got your now moment. How could you possibly experience them all at once? Okay. However, with the spiritual perspective, they can all be out there all at once. And that's where I think we're headed. And once you have that, once you even really get that your spirit is what's more fundamental than your physical body, that change in belief system alone is an awful lot. But most religions, not all, but most religions would say, yeah, your spirit lives on, but you have to do this, this, and this. Otherwise, for example, you're going to go to eternal hell. All they did was add fear, right? If I'm going to go to eternal hell, that's a pretty good sales pitch for this world, but they've added fear. So we need to get to a place where there's minimal fear. And part of it, I think, is the fact that your spirit lives on forever, continues learning forever. In fact, from places outside of space and time. And,
well, I absolutely believe that.
Okay, good. And I do too. And from that place, if you, in fact, just ponder for a moment from that place, time, it's like you're outside of space and time. And that's just what retrocausality permits you to just sort of take for granted. But don't think about it intellectually, because you were raised to not believe that. And what you see day to day is linear time stuff. You rarely But now you're beginning to see with retrocausality in action, but you're in conflict with what you learned over your, most of your life. Now imagine if kids were taught this. It'd be a different paradigm.
Well, also it's the power of intent. It's your intent is strong. That's where it all arises, and it's your integrity.
It does. I agree. Intent with the belief system that indeed we live more in a spiritual based world where we're still learning. That's why you're in the physical world and you're learning stuff, right? You're experiencing stuff. But consciousness is fundamental. And consciousness is outside of space and time, bigger than space and time. Okay, and let's talk about spirituality. I've given this quote once before, but it's so good and it fits so well here, I want to give it again. Nancy Scooter, for a magazine, was asked to summarize spirituality. And here's what she said, and I think it's so beautiful, I want to read it to you. Spirituality references the metaphysical, that which goes beyond the material, mundane world. It includes a conscious sense of that which is greater than the individual, egocentric self, and embraces a connection to a unifying principle and all that is. And all that is, that's the matrix. That's the universal collective consciousness. That's something which contains all that is, past, present, future, and stuff outside of space and time. ETs, anything, anywhere in our physical universe and beyond. Spirituality is about how we perceive, connect with, and bring this greater unifying principle into our lives. It is about consciously living from a more transcendent space of love, gratitude, kindness, compassion, non-judgment, inclusiveness, respect, and honor for all beings, resulting in a perception and experience of the profound sanctity and interconnectedness in all of life. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
That is just beautiful. Okay, and with that, I'll end with my standard, which I still love, because all of this is hopefully leading to a healthy, wealthy, and wise personal life for each of us, as well as our society and ultimately the world, Earth society. Okay, thank you. Questions, comments?
Thank you, Marty. That was well put, well placed, and nice.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. Okay, so we're comfortable with this.
Marty, do you want to put a plug for your APP conferences now?
Thank you. I try not to plug too much, but yeah.
Well, it's on the coattails of the other meeting.
Of IRVA. No, it's actually right before the IRVA meeting, and we did that so people could take one airplane flight and go to both. Ours focuses on the actual doing of precognition of ARV. We'll have 5 actual predictions. You indicated how they'll go. They'll be right there, random. And being in Vegas, we'll be able to wager on them if you choose to. Obviously, it's all voluntary. And we have great speakers. We've got Dean Radin coming in. We've got Joe, who will physically be there. Dean will be doing it over webinar. And we have a lot of other good speakers. Look us up on our website, appliedprecog.com. Lynn Buchanan will be there. It's funny, I don't have all of them right in my head right now. It's just too much going on in my head.
Is Joe Gallenberger going to be there?
No. We did Joe a couple of years ago. Here, I'll tell you what. Since you've brought it up, let's put it on the screen. I can go to our home page. And if there are any newbies here that don't know about our homepage, it's appliedprecog.com. This is the homepage. So we've got Joe, Lynn Buchanan, Dean Radin, Pam Coronado, and Steve Browdy, and me. I'll be making a talk to him. In fact, let me show you the agenda.
Marty, I do have a question.
Yeah, okay.
You offered a free lunch to, there's some kind of a contest to win a free lunch with you and Lynn and Joe.
Correct.
How do you enter the drawing? How do you enter to win?
The time frame is over.
Oh.
But you, I think, registered early enough that you'll be in the hat, if you will. So.
Oh, is that what it is? So, okay,
yeah.
So you're going to pick a name.
We're picking a name.
Okay.
And actually, we're picking 3 names. So there'll be 3 people who will win that to go with Joe, myself, and Lynn Buchanan.
Okay.
And most people know Joe and Lynn. God, I got to change this. There's no reason this is bigger than that. You know, there's so much going on and we just can't proof everything. But Steve Browdy is doing, he's just studies all of this stuff and puts together the things which are most believable based on the data. And there's this Ted Sirios that actually does what's called thought photography. Most of us still remember what Polaroid cameras are.
Yeah.
And he would look at a Polaroid camera, which can't be rigged in any way until you take a picture, and then it comes out immediately. And he would take with that, using a type of psychokinesis, I guess, he would influence it such that a picture, if he was asked, a picture of a building would come out, or a picture of a person would come out that wasn't there.
Wow.
Right. So he's going to be talking about that. And Dean's going to be talking about what he calls real magic, which is everything we do. You know, and that's what he means by it, and ancient wisdom and all of that. And I always try to tie all this together. Plus, we have Pam talking about a case with 2 grannies lost at sea. And Joe, you know, as I said, now it's been several months, but I've come out of the UFO ET closet. I used to try to ignore that, but I just can't ignore it anymore.
Can I tell you a quick little...
Well, wait, let me just finish the title.
Okay.
Look at the title. His title is My RVing of Mars, the Moon, Space, and What Might Be Going On. So we have a really interesting program going. And so, yes, any of you listening, we hope you will join us and bring your friends. In fact, there's a $50 referral fee that can help, you know, pay your expenses. Okay, go ahead.
Well, so I listened to to Joe's talk on Monday, and he just warms my heart.
Right.
And so I had one of my best viewing sessions and feedback sessions after listening to him.
Great.
Yeah, I wish I had scored it a 6. I only scored it a 5, but I wish I had scored it a 6 because it was so on, and I got a hit.
Good for you.
Oh yeah, and I can't help but think that it must have been influenced by the talk. So.
Well, and you want to know something?
Yeah.
Joe, deep down, and I know I do this, I often will put out, get better, be positive, get hits, positive things sort of to our group. Sometimes I do it to the universe, but and who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if you keyed into some of that because, you know, Joe is so into this and he's so into the educational part of this. So he wants to educate and improve people.
Well, you can go back to, let's see the date. Well, it was Monday.
Yeah.
You can go back to my session on Monday. What was that? The 2nd?
Why don't you share that one? I love when people take their good sessions.
Okay.
It's not that hard to put either in Word or PowerPoint your session next to the picture. And we've been asked to share, and I'd love to share this. And you might even say what you told us about, Joe being the inspiration.
Okay, sure. I will do that. I completely forgot about sharing it on APP discussions. Sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that.
Okay, terrific.
Okay, thanks.
Terrific.
All right.
Marty,
Yep.
can you hear me?
Yes.
What? I don't think I'm going to be able to come because I'm having some expensive medical care done, and so I already registered for the online one. If something changes and I can come, I would love to, but right now doesn't look like it. So how much of this is going to be online?
All of the speakers will be online, and that's about all. We're not going to take away from doing the predictions. We're doing 5 predictions. All the green are the predictions. So all of these 6, which are the main speakers, in terms of not being there, that's what you get when you do the webinar only option.
I wish we could be online for the predictions, because we were accidentally last year, and I did a drawing, and several of us that were listening online did a drawing, and then they never showed the picture on the screen, so we never knew what it was that was the answer.
Right, and that's the whole point. We'd have to turn it on again when the feedback came.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, though. I thoroughly enjoyed it online last year. I was hoping the second conference, the IRVA, was going to be online because it was last year, but I can't find a link for it, so they must not be having it online.
Well, they may change their mind and do it later. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, and I hope you can come. And if you get a friend to come, we'll send you $50. You get 10 friends to come, and you've paid for your trip.
I'm a lone duck up here. There's somebody that belongs to this that's in Anchorage, and I think there's somebody in Fairbanks, but I'm long ways from either one of those.
Okay.
So
Well, I say that out loud.
I
say that out loud and put it on here because I think a big part of the paradigm shift is to get more and more people involved who will then begin to integrate it into their understanding of the way the universe really works. So, fair enough. Okay, so with that, let me close this, and do keep precogging and enjoy. Life is really a marvelous thing to be experiencing, and enjoy it and keep precogging. So bye now.
Thank you, Marty.